Now bathe all the Tathagatas, whose pure wisdom is adorned with innumerable virtues. They cause sentient beings of the 5 periods of decay to be separated from their sufferings, and to together attain the pure Dharma body of the Tathagata. Namo Abhivits. Namo Abhivits. Namo Abhivits.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Chelsey Koga, and along with my husband, Bobby, we'll be chairing today's Hanamatsuri service. Thank you for joining us today. Hanamatsuri celebrates the birth of the historical Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama, who would become Shakyamuni Buddha. Today, we will start off with the chanting of the Sambujo on page 21, and then Reverend Davenport will lead us in the Hyo Byakumon, or intention of service.
Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namandabits. Namandabits. Yobakumon. In the presence of Amida Buddha, which we experience as wisdom and compassion, light and life, we are gathered today to observe Hanamatsuri, or the floral festival, which marks the birth of Siddhartha Gautama in Lumbini's garden. The actual day of celebration is April 8th. Siddhartha Gautama, also known as Shakyamuni Buddha, was born over 2,500 years ago in a place called Lumbini's garden. In Jodo Shinshu tradition, we celebrate this day as a Hanamatsuri, or flower festival, because it's said that in the garden was a bloom with beautiful flowers. It is also said that the heavens were overjoyed with the birth, that it caused a sweet rain to fall and bathe the newborn baby. It is a time to celebrate this joyous occasion and once again hear and be reminded of the teachings of Siddhartha Gautama, who was born and became Shakyamuni Buddha, our teacher who gifted us with the Dharma. Namo Kie Butsu. I go to the Buddha for guidance. Namo Kie Ho. I go to the Dharma for guidance. Namo Kie So. I go to the Sangha for guidance. Hearing the name, desiring to be born in the Pure Land, all can attain birth and attain the rank of the truly settled. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namandabits.
We will now have sutra chanting of the Sambutsuge on page 44 of the Purple Service Book.
Nichigatmani Shuko Enyo Kai Shin Non Pe Yunyaku Jumoku Nyorai Yogen Chose Murin Shogaku Daion Koru Jipo Kaimon Shojin Sanmai Chie Itokumuro Shushokeu Jintai Zennen Shobun Hokai Gujin Jin no Kugo Gaitai Mumyo Yokunu Seson Yomu Nino Shishi Jin Tokumuro Kukun Kodai Chie Jin Myo Komyo Iso Shindo Daisen Ganga Sabun Zai Shoho Kado Shoji Mifu Geida
shojin nyoze sanmai chie ijo go se tokubun fugyo shigan isai kuku isadayan keshi ubun hakusen no kuman muro daisho shunyo goja kuyo isai shito shobun funyo gudo kensho fugyaku finyo goja shobun sekai bufu kage mushu sendo komyo shisho henshi shokoku nyoze shojin ijin nanro roga sabun kokudo dai ichigo shukimyo dojo chozen koku nyo naion nimu toso gato aimin doda nisai jiporai sho jinen shojo ito gakoku keraku anon kobun shinmyo zega shinsho hongan no hi riki shosho yoku jipo seson chie muge joro shison chiga shingyo kero shinshi shoku dokuchu gagyo shojin ninju fuke. Namanda be Namanda be Namanda be Namanda be Namanda be Namanda be Gani shiku doku Byodo sei sai dohon bodai shin ojo anranko. Namo Amitabha Butsu. Namo Amitabha Butsu. Namo Amitabha Butsu. Namo Davas, Namo Davas, Namo Davas.
We will now have sweet tea and floral offering by the temple representatives. Dharma School staff, Roy and Karen Okuhara. Dharma School students, Flynn Cheeks and Kiana Koga. Junior YBA, or Songketeens, sorry, Kira Sunthorn and Penelope Schmidt. Junior YBA, Juliana Cruz and Paulina Covarrubias. Abba, Greg Yonikura and Avis Honda. BWA, Lynn Oshiro and Kelly Tamaya. Taiko, Laura Yoshida and Ayla Koga. Komon, Bill and Joyce Teague. And Buddhist Temple, Kurt Yasuhara and Luan Li. Thank you, Temple members. We will now have a Dharma School message by Reverend Davenport.
So I just have to say, wow, there's a lot of people out here today. This month, my whole theme this month has been gratitude. Last week we had a visiting temple for Vista, and I was so grateful for everyone showing up. And then today, the home team, everyone. So it's all good. Please join me in Gasho, placing our palms together, while I read the words of Shinran Shonin. Shakyamuni appeared in this world solely to teach the ocean-like primal vow of Amida. We, an ocean of beings in an evil age of 5 defilements, should entrust ourselves to the Tathagata's words of truth. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda. So today's a very special day, a very special service. Does anyone know what it is? Yes. A strong hand. It's on the screen. So what is this? Well, we can think of it as a birthday celebration. And how many people love birthdays? Raise your hands. Okay. When you get older, you might not like them as much because you got to start counting how many fingers and toes you got. But for now, birthdays should always be exciting. They should be great moments. And today, it's not just any birthday. Today, we celebrate the birth of Shakyamuni Buddha, whose life helped people all over the world for more than 2,500 years. So usually when we think about birthdays, they're exciting. We gather together with family, we share food, we decorate, and we remember how much someone means to us. Hanamatsuri, which means flower festival, is just like that. We decorate with flowers, the hanamido and the onaijin. We gather together and we celebrate the birth of the Buddha. We even have a potluck, and I'm told bingo. So we're gathered here today in gratitude for the birth of the Buddha. But this is not just a celebration. It also is an opportunity to learn something meaningful. So today, I want to begin by bringing in math, because, it's safe now. I can start talking about math. I'm a math teacher. And this is one of my favorite things to send people on their birthday. It says, studies show that the more birthdays you have, the longer you live. And I would generally recommend that. But if you're someone that has a birthday month where you celebrate every day, you're not going to stretch it out any longer. But my question today, to give you something to think about, is what does Hanamatsuri teach us? What do we learn about this day? Why do we recall these stories of the birth of the Buddha? Well, I think it's best, if we're going to talk about it, to first go over what the Buddha's birth was. So let me tell you a short story. So long ago, Queen Maya, the wife of a great king of the Indian Shakya clan, had a dream before giving birth. In it, a magnificent six-tusked elephant descended from the heavens and approached her. Its skin was as white as mountain snow, and it held a brilliant pink lotus flower in its trunk. When Queen Maya awoke from this dream, she felt deep peace and joy from this dream. Upon hearing of this miraculous dream, her husband, the king, summoned all the local holy men to interpret what this dream meant, because they felt it was very auspicious to see a white elephant. Their conclusion that he heard from all of these wise people was that, Your Majesty, the queen will give birth to a son. Not only a son, but a son who will be a great leader. He is destined to become either a mighty emperor who rules throughout the four directions, or a great teacher who will show the way of truth to all beings in heaven and earth. And his dad's the king, so what do you think he wants? An emperor. You got to inherit. So this is an amazing prophecy this family's getting. He's either going to do amazingly great things, inherit the kingdom, or he's going to become this great sage, this wise man. So, soon after, as it was customary in those days, Queen Maya returned to her parents' home to give birth to this soon-to-be baby boy. Along the way, she stopped to rest in the garden of Lumbini. The forest there was filled with flowers and birds singing. Admiring a tree in full bloom, the queen walked over to touch it. Suddenly, though, she was unsteady. She reached and grabbed a branch to steady herself. And just a moment later, still holding that branch, Queen Maya gave birth to a radiant son from her side. And then something even more amazing happened, if it wasn't already amazing enough. Immediately after his birth, the purest, most fragrant rain fell from the sky that was both cold, warm, and sweet, gently cascading to bathe the newborn prince. The baby prince stood up right away and took several steps. Does anyone know how many steps? 7. Great. Yes, he took 7 steps, and from each step, a lotus flower sprang from beneath his feet, kind of like in this stylized image. The young prince, purified in body and mind by the rain, pointed one hand toward the heavens and the other toward the earth and said, Heaven and earth, heaven above and earth below, I am the honored one. I shall dispel the suffering that fills the world. Now, this is pretty impressive because I just had a baby and my baby did none of this. I mean, my fingers crossed. I was like, maybe, but my baby doesn't even walk, doesn't talk. But for Shakyamuni, from this moment on, this birth marks something really important. It marks the beginning of a life he would eventually live in this world, during which he would attain enlightenment while sitting beneath a Bodhi tree, and then dedicate the remaining 45 years of his life to teaching others the path to freedom from suffering. So this is an amazing story. We have this very auspicious dream of this white elephant. We have this baby that was born from the side of a woman. We have a baby that walks and talks. I mean, he's got a full set of hair. My baby had a full set of hair. That's the only thing in common that they have. But it's a pretty amazing story. It's got all these symbols, all these metaphors. And if you're listening closely, you might be thinking, how in the heck is this baby doing all this stuff? That doesn't make any sense. But that's not really important when we listen to this story. What's really important is what we're supposed to learn from this story, what it represents, what it tries to teach us. In Buddhism, stories like these are not always meant to be taken literally. Instead, they are meant to teach us something deeper, something about life, about ourselves, and about wisdom and compassion. So when we think about stories we have in our life, the TV shows we watch, the movies, maybe you see people fly, superheroes, like in the Marvel movies. You hear animals talk, like in Disney movies. Or even magic happens. People have superpowers. These things may not happen in real life as well, but these stories still teach us important lessons about courage, friendship, and helping others, much like the story of the birth of the Buddha. In fact, the story of the birth of the Buddha is much like those stories. So instead of asking ourselves, did this really happen? We can ask a different question. What is this story trying to teach us? And here's the most important part. Shakyamuni Buddha didn't just come into the world to be special. According to Shinran Shonin, he came to share a very special message. In fact, we can think of this message as a gift for all of us across time. For us here in the Hondo, for those who have come before us, and those that will come after us into the future. This gift is the teaching of Amida Buddha's compassion, a promise that all beings, just as they are cared for and never abandoned. Think of it like this. Imagine someone gives you a gift. How many of you guys like gifts? Anyone? For the record, not everyone's raising their hands. I'm just putting that out there. This gift is given to you not because you earned it, not because you were perfect, but just because you are who you are. That's the Dharma, the Buddha's teachings. Just like a gift, it is given without request, without something in return. We don't have to be perfect. We don't have to refine ourselves. We don't have to even fix anything. All we have to do to receive this gift is to listen. And that brings us to the question I have today. What does Hanamatsuri teach us? During this festival, we take part in a special activity called the Bathing of the Buddha. Some representatives did it this morning. All the minister's assistants did it. And in this ceremony, we pour sweet tea over a small statue of the baby Buddha in our Hanamido. Does anyone know how many times we do it? I see hand gestures. 3. Yes, 3 times. And when we do this in many Buddhist cultures and traditions, we think to ourselves with each pour, and we repeat to ourselves, may I let go of unkind thoughts. May I do good things. May I help others. So with each pour, we're not just pouring sweet tea over the statue, we are doing it with intent, with purpose. Now, that sounds much easier than it is, because in reality, we are all living imperfect lives. You know, sometimes we get angry, sometimes we feel selfish, and sometimes we even make mistakes. But even so, the Buddha's teaching reminds us we are still embraced by compassion. That gift is always there, no matter what we're doing, thinking, or feeling. So when we hear the story of the Buddha's birth, don't worry about if every detail happened exactly the way they say it. Instead, remember what it means. That someone came into this world to help all of us. That compassion is always reaching out to us. And that this teaching is a gift for you just as you are. In closing, please join me in Gasho while I read the words of our founder, Shinran Shonin. Shakyamuni Tathagata appeared in this world solely to teach the ocean-like primal vow of Amida. We, an ocean of beings in an evil age of 5 defilements, should entrust ourselves to the Tathagata's words of truth. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namandavats. Namandavats.
Thank you, Reverend Davenport, for your message and for the reminder to practice compassion and to accept yourselves as you are. Please rise if you're able to join us in the Gatha in Lumbini's garden on page 119 and remain standing for the recitation of the Golden Chain. Please join me in the recitation of the Golden Chain, which can be found on page 90. I am a link in Amida's golden chain of love that stretches around the world. I will keep my link bright and strong. I will be kind and gentle to every living thing and protect all who are weaker than myself. I will think pure and beautiful thoughts, say pure and beautiful words, and do pure and beautiful deeds. May every link in Amida's golden chain of love be bright and strong, and may we all attain perfect peace. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Please be seated. Now I'd like to call up Kurt Yasuhara for words of appreciation.
Good morning, everybody, and happy Hanamatsuri. Thank you all for coming today. It's great to see everyone here this morning and filling up the temple. On behalf of the Buddhist temple, I'd like to thank Reverend Davenport for the wonderful message this morning. I'd also like to thank everyone that came and put together the hanamido and the flowers and some of the donations of the flowers. It really brightens the temple up. So thank you for those that came in yesterday and made it such a beautiful arrangement. I'd like to thank Bobby and Chelsey for hosting today, and Ong for playing the music, all our wonderful reverends and ministers, assistants that participated in today's service. Thank you. And I can't forget our AV team, Reverend and Ricky, for putting together our streaming media. For those that can't make it, or if you want to see other services, it's out on YouTube. But most of all, I really appreciate the support of everyone. It really makes the temple a full and wonderful place to be, so thank you for coming out today.
At this time, are there any announcements?
Good morning, everyone. On this Hanamatsuri Day, we do have craft classes for all the kids, and because of an anonymous donor, they provided all the kids who go to the craft class, including those who are visitors here, which I've met a couple back there. You'll get your candy downstairs, okay? And so when you come do oshioko, remember what Sensei said. What do? You pour 3 times. And what do you do when you're pouring the 3 times the sweet tea? You think about 3 good thoughts, right? Okay. So thank you very much.
The temple will be having its annual bazaar on June 7th. For all temple members, please pick up your opportunity drawing tickets in back of the Hondo. Also, we are looking for volunteers. There is a sign-up sheet downstairs in the office. Thank you.
Hey, hello, my name's Penelope.
And my name is Kira, and happy Hanamatsuri. First and foremost, thank you so much to everybody who has already donated to our book drive.
Yeah, we saw a lot of good books. So we're still accepting books, CDs, vinyls, cassettes, DVDs, Blu-rays, video games, and game consoles. Oh.
And we'll be accepting them until May 3rd. Thank you.
Yeah. And if you didn't know, the box is downstairs.
Hello, the Junior YBA is having our annual Mother's Day breakfast on May 10th from 8:30 to 9:45. Tickets will be $10 and mothers will eat for free. I might have forgotten all the tickets at home, but they will be available for the next 4 weeks, so please have your money ready. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jason, and I'm sorry for the kind of late notice here, but next week we're going to have another scam seminar downstairs after service. And this one is going to be super exciting and interesting, completely different than any of the seminars we've had before. So if you feel like you've already come and you've already gleaned all the lessons you can, I guarantee that you will take something away from this next scam seminar. So it'll be next week, right after service, downstairs.
Next week, we're going to be celebrating Earth Day. We could have got a good speaker, but we got a guy in a weird shirt instead. There are others of you who have similar weird shirts. You know who you are. Please be sure to wear them next week.
At this time, the Dharma School is welcome to offer sweet tea and go to the conference room for their activity.
Please join us for the Vandana and Tisarana on page 96.
Please join me from the beginning. We're at the leader line. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sambuddhassa. Homage to him, the exalted one, the enlightened one, the supremely awakened one. Buddham saranam gacchami, Dhammam saranam gacchami, Sangham saranam gacchami. I go to the Buddha for guidance. I go to the Dharma for guidance. I go to the Sangha for guidance. Namo Kie Butsu. Namo Kie Ho. Namo Kie So. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu.
Reverend Davenport will now share the Adult Hanamatsuri Dharma message.
Please join me again in Gasho as we place our palms together and reflect on these words from Shinran Shonin. Shakyamuni Tathagata appeared in this world solely to teach the ocean-like primal vow of Amida. We, an ocean of beings in an evil age of 5 defilements, should entrust ourselves to the Tathagata's words of truth. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namandabats. Namandabats. So when we hear these words from Shinran Shonin, we are given a very direct and profound perspective. The life of Shakyamuni Buddha, from birth to enlightenment and eventually his passing, has a singular purpose, and that purpose is to reveal the primal vow of Amida Buddha. And yet, when we turn to the story of the Buddha's birth, as I shared earlier, we are immediately confronted with elements that challenge our modern sensibilities. Prophetic dreams, miraculous births, an infant walking and talking, lotus flowers blossoming from his footsteps. For many of us, especially in our modern society, where we're shaped by scientific thinking, historical analysis, and reasoning, there's almost an immediate response when we hear these stories. Did this really happen? Do people really believe this? And as I shared earlier, as someone who's had a baby, I know most of this stuff is not happening, especially right out the gate. But if we remain at a level-headed sense of questioning, if we focus too much on the literal meaning, we miss the very heart of this teaching, the messages, the symbols, the metaphors behind this story. The issue isn't not whether this story satisfies historical scrutiny. The issue is whether we can hear what the story is truly saying. In Buddhism, particularly within the Mahayana tradition, which Jodo Shinshu is a part of, stories function as a skillful means, ways of communicating truths that cannot always be expressed through literal descriptions. You can think of it as a tool that helps you understand something that's too hard to explain in just simple words itself. A good example is learning to say, I love you. For most of us, when we learn the words I love you, we just learn that they're words. And when we say them out of obligation or because we're told to do it. But as we learn to sit with the meaning of the words, if we learn about what actually is transpiring when we share it, then naturally from our lips comes the words I love you with so much more meaning than the words themselves. So the birth narrative of Shakyamuni Buddha is one such teaching. And it has so many symbolic dimensions if we're willing to look and listen and hear them. And symbols are just is only as important as their meaning. If you don't know what the symbol means, its meaning is absolutely way over your head. A good example, it's another math joke. I don't know if anyone's going to get this. If not, I will break it down. But it says, today's math joke. And it's got the square root of -1, 2 to the third power, the summation notation, and pi. And it says, and it was delicious. So we'll start one at a time here. Does anyone know what the square root of 1 means? I, imaginary number. Okay, so we got 1 down. What's 2 to the third power? 8. You can use a calculator. It's okay. I won't judge you. So I ate some pie. I ate some pie. Okay. It's okay. If it comes to you later, it's okay. It's just as funny. But this is a good example. You know, symbols only mean as much as we understand them. And if we focus too much on their literal meaning, square root of 1, you're going to totally miss what it represents inside, what it means beyond the symbol itself. And so you don't have to have a fancy decoder ring or know a bunch of crazy math to answer most of these things, or to learn about the story of the Buddha and the message behind it, the symbolism. So I want to go through the story real quick and break down some key elements. The first element that we learn about in the story of the Shakyamuni's birth is the dream of a white elephant, which represents more than just an auspicious sign. In the cultural context of ancient India, it signals the arrival of a being whose life will carry universal significance. So from this image, from the very beginning, the narrator directs our attention beyond Siddhartha's personal identity as a baby prince, as merely a person. And it points to something much larger, that this person will be either a great ruler or a wise sage. In our next image, we get the account of his birth from Queen Maya's side. Based on social structures at the time, particularly because India had a caste system, being born from different parts of the body represented different aspects of society. If you were born from the head, that usually meant you were a Brahmin or a teacher, a very wise person. If you were born from the shoulders, you were a ruler, an administrator, a warrior. If you were born from the legs, you were an artisan, a trader. And if you were born from the feet, you were a laborer. And then, if you were born from below the feet, you were an untouchable. So by knowing this second part tells us a lot, because the Buddha is born from the side of Queen Maya. Therefore, we know right away that this person is going to be born into a high level of society, to have some ability to live a life free from the restraints of having to focus on feeding themselves and working hand to mouth. It stipulates that human society, although the Buddha is being born in it at this time, his teachings and actions are not going to be this abstract thing. They're going to be something real life, practical, understood by all. In the next part, we have 7 steps. And does anyone know why we have 7? Any ideas? Oh, yeah? Perfect. Yeah, in Buddhist cosmology at the time, we speak of 6 realms of existence. These are various modes of suffering shaped by our ignorance, our craving, and our aversion. By taking that 7th step, that extra step, we are transcending these 6 realms. Not an escape to another place, but a liberation from the compulsive cycles of suffering that we are all born into. This points to an awakening. Second to last, we get a declaration. And for most of us, it might sound very conceited. We go, I alone am the honored one, which sounds pretty impressive, especially coming from a baby. But it's misunderstood if we take it literally. It is not an expression of ego or superiority. Rather, it reflects the realization of the ultimate truth, that awakening reveals a reality beyond dualistic thinking, one that encompasses all beings. So when Shakyamuni tells us this, he's telling us that this liberation, this message that he's about to share through his life, goes beyond all 6 realms and points to something much larger. And then in the final part, we get the imagination of sweet rain and blooming flowers, which captures what we experience in Lumbini's garden and the song we sung earlier, evokes an affective dimension, an awakening of joy, of harmony, and a natural unfolding of life that aligns with truth. It grounds us in sensations in the real world. Now, I didn't share this earlier, but the birth of Shakyamuni Buddha doesn't end there at the end of the story, because what happens next grounds us in reality and grounds us in the truth of impermanence. Because tragically, after the Buddha's birth, his mother, Queen Maya, died 7 days later. And so immediately this grounds us in the understanding that life is impermanent, even for someone like the Buddha, who will eventually become a very enlightened person. Reality always exists for all of us. We will all be born, we will all get sick, and we will all pass. So when we read this story and we listen to it, there are so many symbols, things to learn from, ideas to glean. But they're all symbols, and knowing them helps us to understand part of the message. Although many of these events in the traditional story may be based on actual occurrences, it is best appreciated as an expression of religious truth rather than literal storytelling. So the best way to think about it is a teaching, not as a history book. And this brings us to what Shinran Shonin shared with us at the beginning. The purpose of Shakyamuni Buddha, the birth of the Buddha, and his appearance in this world was to teach us the primal vow. The story of the Buddha must then be understood in this light, not just the birth of someone who reaches enlightenment, but the birth of someone who shares a very important story for us and a teaching. It is not merely how he was born, but why he appeared. And this changes our relationship to the story. And this is where the teaching becomes far more personal, more direct to all of us as individuals. You know, in the quote I shared earlier, Shinran describes us as an ocean of beings in an evil age of 5 defilements. We are marked by contradictions. You know, we aspire to be kind, yet act out of self-interest most of our lives. We value truth, yet fall into ignorance. We seek peace, yet are entangled in anger and fear. If it's not directly relevant in your own personal life, look out at the world. Look at the news. Look at all the things going on in the world. In traditional Buddhist language, these are captured in what we call the 3 poisons: greed, anger, and ignorance, which affect all living beings, even myself. This teaches us that despite our best intentions, we are not always able to live as we wish. Our habits, our emotions, our limitations shape us from every moment, but they do not define us. They're not meant to judge us. It is not meant to condemn us for who we are or what we do. It is just an honest recognition that we don't always live up to the potential that we have. And that is why the primal vow becomes so important in our Jodo Shinshu teaching. For Shinran, Amida's compassion is not reserved for those who are perfect, always doing the right thing, saying the right words, and acting with mindfulness. It is directed to us, the Bonbu, the unenlightened, the foolish beings, exactly as we are. At its core, this celebration teaches us that the Buddha's birth gives us a teacher who's said to have taught over 84,000 Dharma gates, 84 possibilities of reaching enlightenment. And one of these, Shinran Shonin expresses, is the most important, especially for those of us who are guided by our blind passions. And that is the awareness of Amida Veda's primal vow, a commitment to extend wisdom, compassion to every one of us, flaws and all. Even in the Hanamatsuri ritual of pouring sweet tea over the baby Buddha, as I shared earlier, we are offered a simple yet profound reflection. We can easily cleanse the outside of this statue. We can easily wash our hands. But internally, the habits of our mind rise, we give to our own suffering, and it is far more difficult to cleanse who we are inside. Thus, these three aspirations, the eliminating of evil thoughts, cultivating good, and saving all beings, are ideas that aspire and aspirations we try and achieve, but cannot fully accomplish by ourselves. And that is why the Buddha's sole purpose is sharing the primal vow with us, the compassion of Amida Buddha. And that's what it means when we are saying that the Dharma is a gift for all of us, that asks for nothing in return. Because after all, a gift is something that is given, not earned. And in our everyday lives, where we're told to strive, to accomplish goals, to persevere, to get what we want, and to make everything happen on our own, this teaching can be very hard to swallow, relying on the other power, relying on something outside of us to help us along the way. But it's not just symbolic or abstract, it's practical. All we have to do is listen deeply to understand its presence in our lives. To listen deeply to the Dharma is not meant merely to hear the words of this story or to understand the concepts. It is to allow the teachings to illuminate our lives, to see clearly our patterns of thought and behavior, with not judgment, but with awareness. Then, in response, we can say the Nembutsu, Namo Amida Butsu. And this will arise naturally from entrusting ourselves to this process. So when I return to the story of the birth of the Buddha, I hope you can see not only as a literal story, but as something full of symbols and metaphors that are teaching us something full of profound thoughts and messages. The story invites us beyond literalism to engage with real meaning if we listen carefully to what it's truly meant to share. And in doing so, leads us back to Shinran Shonin. But more importantly, we are reminded that each of us has a gift that is continually being given to us if we have the opportunity to hear it and the opportunity to allow it to work within us. So in closing, I want to return to the question I started with today. What does Hanamatsuri teach us? And I think it teaches us to look beyond the literal and listen for deeper meaning. It teaches us that the Buddhist life reveals a compassion that includes each of us, born, alive, and to be born later. And that it reminds us that the Dharma is not something to be earned, but a gift already offered, if we're willing to listen. So please join me with palms together one final time as we listen deeply to the words of Shinran Shonin. Shakyamuni Tathagatas appeared in this world solely to teach the ocean-like primal vow of Amida. We, an ocean of beings in an evil age of 5 defilements, should entrust ourselves to the Tathagata's words of truth. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namandabuts, namandabuts, namandabuts.
Thank you, Reverend Davenport, for your Dharma message. I think growing up, hearing that story of Lumbini's garden, I have much deeper appreciation now, hearing all that symbolism that's really hidden and buried in that. So thank you for sharing that with us. Now we will have Gatha Ondok Santu on page 128, so please stand if you're able.
Please be seated. We will now have our music meditation. As the sun shines upon the earth, awakening into growth the seeds that lie dormant in the soil, may the light of wisdom shine into our minds and truly awaken us to our ignorance, and by this insight, stir us to strive for a life of deeper understanding and enlightenment. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. I'd like to echo Kurt's thank yous to the following people who helped make today's service possible. To Reverend Davenport for your Dharma messages, to Reverend Smitty and Reverend Sharon, ministers' assistants Arturo Rubio, Yukati Williams, and Bill Teague for your help with today's service, Arturo for ringing the kancho, Avis Honda and Bill Teague for preparing the offerings for the Onaijing, Anong for playing the organ, our tech team, Brevin Honda and Ricky Cheeks for streaming today's service, and last but not least, the Dharma School for decorating the beautiful Hanamido. Please join us in offering sweet tea, and after, you're welcome to join us for bingo and the bake sale in the annex. Thank you again for joining us today.